Hello, hello, and welcome to Living as Is. I'm Shah, autistic, self-aware, awakening. I've been thinking about something that so far to date hasn't had an answer, and this is in part what I'm going to speak about today. And I'll be introducing something else. So today I'll be talking about awakening as a spiritual neurodivergent with no spiritual bypassing. I've had a couple of other videos where I've mentioned about Rasa, and I've mentioned about being autistic and awakening. I'm adding in the spiritual bypassing as I feel it's quite important to talk about this. And within my autism, like many autistics, I experience meltdowns. However, I've recently come across a much better term than meltdowns. I've never really liked that word. A friend, Quinn, who runs a YouTube channel called Autistic, brilliant stuff on his site. Anyone want to look up autism and get more information on autism, Quinn's site is loaded with it. Really, really good. And the term that I recently come across on Quinn's site is stress event, an overloading of the system. And this to me is much, much better than a meltdown, because the event that I experience is stress. It's a stress event. I'm not melting down, I'm stressing. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos about self-awareness and how in moments of stress, anxiety, even anger, I've stepped into Rasa and experienced what is known as the essence of emotion. In the Rasa moment, there's the feeling and seeing of the experience I'm going through. Let's say it's a high stress moment. All the emotions of the event open. Yet, at the same moment, the very same moment, immense peace. And within this moment, there lies the ability to see the stress or allow it to flow free. That moment of Rasa is giving me freedom from the emotional event taking place. It's also, it's very much giving me another choice, which is to just let it flow, let it all pour out. In awareness, I'm also seeing these autistic stress events, but many autistics see their stress event and what's taking place and what brought them to this space. The difference is, with the Rasa comes this immense peace. And there's the seeing and feeling of both sides. So there's the immense peace of Rasa, and it's clearly showing everything in such clarity. And then there's the emotional event, which could be anger or tears, and it's just going. But it's happening in one body. It's happening within myself. It's happening around myself. The stress event is immense stress, all emotion triggered and alive, with not one moment of immense peace. Now, because I'm experiencing an emotional event with Rasa and an autistic stress event with no Rasa, I'm the common denominator. Obviously, I'm experiencing both, but there's something missing. There's like, how come there's no Rasa in the stress event? Looking at a moment of Rasa, feeling all the peace, all the emotions firing, knowing all the changes that have taken place within, mental, emotional, spiritual, as well as the rich understanding that aided towards this growth in awareness. It's a hell of an experience, and it still continues every now and again to this date. And I quite frankly don't expect it to stop. And by that, I mean, if I'm experiencing an event I classify as an emotional event, there is Rasa, it'll be there. So I'm not expecting it to stop. If you look at this sign behind me, this wonderful little sign here, presented to me by my sister. Sadly, bless her, she passed away last year. The sign is there's no end to learning. Everything I experience for myself is a learning. Once understood what's bringing the emotion, what's bringing the stress, what brings me to where I am, who I am. It's a wonderful ride if you choose it to be so. Now, the knowing of Rasa has been around since 2014. That was the very first moment I felt this undeniable presence. And it was mind-opening. Now we walk forward to 2022 and diagnosed with autism. This diagnosis, this helped to bring answers never expected. But it brought this puzzle to me as well. Stress events, for me, for myself, they range from verbally explosive, stimming, foot tapping, nerves on full sensitivity. There's no sign of the event stopping. Now, I will say, there's no harming anyone. No harming anyone, no harming myself. Instead, my language, it's really coarse, extremely vulgar, and if no controlling my volume, very loud. The event can range from quite mild, but normally containing similar actions. Arms may flap slightly, shoulders shrug, nerves active within my system. Now, the similarity between an emotional event and a stress event is they're active triggers. They've been activated by something. The difference with a stress event, actually, first let me say, with an emotional event and with Rasa, I can clear everything. The trigger, what activated it, it can all go. But that's one of the differences with the stress event. For myself, it's an active trigger that once set off, it can stay active for several days. It doesn't mean I'm angry for several days. It probably means I'm irritated for several days, but not angry. It's like once I manage to bring myself down from the stress event, there's still this feeling of an active trigger inside myself, which means monitoring or avoiding whatever activated it in the first place. When I look at spiritual belief systems that I've followed in life, there's been nothing in relation to any kind of life issues or disorders. It's only come over as their system can cure all. Now, when I say cure all, I'm not saying their system can cure the measles. I mean, their system can help with the nerves. It can help with stress. It can help with anger, help with anxiety. It can help calm all these down. Yet, that isn't what I've found. There just never seemed to be anything working directly with the issue. The other thing is that with the teachers I've known, in the systems I've settled in, they don't know a single thing about autism. But I will step back here, and what I'll say is that I'm not putting blame, I'm not pointing the finger and saying you should know. And the reason I'm saying this is because very few people seem to know anything until several years ago. When along came the improvements in diagnosis, it's known more in the world. And suddenly people are saying, oh, it's a pandemic, oh, it's a disease, oh, bullshit. Diagnoses are better. Yeah, here's the thing. Even if these teachers did know, I don't think they'd be able to suggest anything. I don't think they could provide advice on how stress events can be worked with in their spiritual system. And I've spoken about that in previous videos as well. A stress event, like an emotional event, is linked to mind and body. Obviously, if the responses are bodily responses and mind responses, that's what's taking place. So it's obvious that they're linked to mind and body. My reason for mentioning this is because 3 years ago, I held no information on autism. Everything has been gathered through autistic friends, the internet, books on autism and spirituality, chatting to people, and then cross-linking all of this information, all of this constant run of information gathering and bringing it into myself. And I did the same, exactly the same, with all spiritual information. So I feel like I've had to work with myself, my stress events, and Rasa. Now, the funny thing is, in working with these events, it was clear I held an expectation. Stress events could be handled with Rasa. In the same way, emotional events are sorted through Rasa. But there's a link missing. This is part of where the problem is. I have this expectation, and it never happened. It never happened. In any stress event, no Rasa, which kind of said, oh well, autism is definitely occurring within form in a different way. That's rubbish. Rubbish. If there are not two mental beings, and I'm not talking about schizophrenia. If I'm saying that if there are two people, one has emotional events, one has stress events, and they're in the same body, not going to happen. It's one body, one person, one mind. So it's hilarious to say autism is occurring in a different form, but something is different. Something is different. So anyway, the first thing for me is don't expect Rasa to show up in a stress event. And the next thing, continue checking, monitoring, and looking at it. I'm doing that. What I will just step back and say is that an emotional event had a trigger. A stress event has a trigger or triggers. You could say there's a difference already. Not necessarily so. In an emotional event, you could get angry with someone, swearing at them, cursing them, but then same thing in a stress event. So that goes out the window. There's something which is different, which I'm going to keep checking on. I'm going to keep looking at. I may have an inkling of what it could be at the moment, but I just have to hold on to that. One thing for myself is that it's very much felt, due to not having the understanding of being autistic for over 50 years of my life, time has been taken to absorb I am autistic. Part of this understanding carried a belief on autopilot Rasa would be present within stress events. It's clear they're both triggers. They're both being triggered. There's no question about that. It's just that more self-study needs to take place, more awareness opening up. Life to date has been spent in self-study. And through not having the understanding of being autistic for 50 years of my life, that never entered my mind. That never came into my thought processes. Part of the reason to this, because I'd already accepted labels of psychic, weird, and strange. Wonderful world we live in. So I wasn't looking for anything else. Now I have this understanding. It means I'm aware of being very sensitive with triggers that could very well be on autopilot, and I'm adding this into my understanding, and I'm observing inwardly. There's something else that I've done or not done that I think would be a good idea for other people if you can work with this. And that is I've done my best to avoid spiritual bypassing, or excuse me, or another way of looking at it is emotional bypassing. In spiritual emotional bypassing, we're using emotions, we're using spiritual tools to go around the issue. It's like, it's too easy to say, life is life, problems happen. Consider, are you using meditation to become detached to emotions? So you go into the meditation, you settle back, oh, this is nice, and your issue, whatever, floats away from you, and you're viewing them at a distance. It's easy to do. My kind of thought on all of this is be careful not to dismiss real issues. And we may do this emotionally by saying, just love yourself. Stop being negative. There can be very real issues within your feelings. There can be something there to be healed. Bypassing isn't healing. Now, I will say Meditation, not always a positive moment. In meditation, without trying or with trying, you can have a block tied in place and you don't know what's beneath it. You just think, I want this block loosened. So you meditate, and either in that time of meditation or in a few days, it opens. But once it's loosened and opened, a painful memory could surface. And you were certainly not aiming for that, but it happens. Now, if you want to purposefully use meditation to loosen blocks, I see that as a very positive step. But not everybody is capable of doing that. And I wish you all the world of love and all the world of the best if that's what you choose to do. I've done this. This is how I've dealt with feelings if I feel I need to. Now, I'm talking about emotional bypassing, spiritual bypassing, emotions. Let's take the word love. An immense emotion. Emotion that can overtake you. Emotion that can drive you. Emotion that can push you. And you're in love with someone. You think the world of them. They're the greatest. They're the best. And overnight, no relationship. And it's heartbreaking. And love suddenly becomes very painful to think over. However, an emotion is only good or bad from the perspective of how you relate to it. And how you relate to it is how you see it, how you've been trained to see it, how you think about it. In my healing processes, listening to my feelings, opening to my discomfort, provided direction, a way to look at things taking place. One of the most directed or pointed ways of understanding self is listening to your feelings. Mind doesn't and never will point the way every time. However, your feelings, as far as I'm concerned, don't lie. Discomfort is discomfort. There's a gut feeling for myself that accompanies a stress event. And in fact, they go hand in hand. Once I've got this feeling of something in the gut, something's not quite right, this particular feeling in my awareness indicates there's a stress event building. And there's been times when I've been in a stress event and then realised, oh, there's the gut feeling. So I kind of missed it, but I don't always miss it. Therefore, listening to feelings over time brought the understanding of self-awareness, awakening, knowing Rasa, knowing a stress event is present. And I, right now, have no intention to ever stop listening to feelings. And through listening to feelings, through observing self and being aware of my actions, it's my intention to see where do these two differences lie. The difference between an emotional event and Rasa opening to a stress event where Rasa doesn't open. There's a difference. And I will catch it at some point. And when I do, I'll let you know. For now, thank you for being present. Thank you for listening to the end. And come on, click the link, click like, click subscribe, and then go wild for the notification as well. Be advised when the next video is coming out. Thank you very much for listening. Blessings to you all. Thank you.